What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. After Sound here, bringing you Splinterlands content every single day. We also stream right here on this channel every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday morning, so come by and say hello. Okay, I wanted to take a pulse of the community because I was intrigued by an idea that I was reading on MavChat, and I want to give a shout out to Nerd Cthulhu. I think I'm saying the name right, but regular contributor in MavChat, Nerd Cthulhu. I appreciate the opinions and perspectives that you always bring to the conversation. So within that, one of the things that they were saying recently was they didn't like how much SPS there was and wanted to reduce it by a full billion. And when you think about GLX, for example, right? The total supply for GLX is 2 billion. The total supply for SPS is 3 billion. We are still set to get that out for the full 65 months. Again, most of those are now much, much less than 65 months, but that is the distribution rate. And when you look at where we are right now, we're sitting just under 1 billion in supply. And so, sure, we also have a good amount that's burned from converting to DEC, a good amount that's burned from node license sales. So actually, in terms of all the SPS that has been essentially printed at this point, I believe we are over 1 billion. So the idea that Nerd Cthulhu had, and I haven't thought this through outside of the fact that it's intriguing to me, and I wanted to present it to you guys in a way where we could either poke holes in it or maybe get behind it. I have no idea. But the idea of reducing the amount of SPS that will ever be in circulation. Now, I know we probably wouldn't get team buy-in from this because they probably have like large plans for SPS and want to make sure that there's enough for everybody to go around. And the moment you start, the moment you start playing... Sorry, guys. The moment you start playing with the SPS supply, things do get a little shaky, right? Because if you can take it down, you could probably also bring it back up, meaning that you could print more in the future. So again, the idea was intriguing because it is we have roughly 2 billion remaining that needs to be distributed in one way or another. What if you just did and I'm not sure if this is the exact thing that Nerd Cthulhu had in mind, but when I was thinking about it, what if you just did a straight, if there's 1 billion remaining, a nice slice in half, right? So everything is still going to be distributed on the same schedule over those 65 or less months, but we're just going to cut it all in half, which means that there's much less SPS going into the market overall and then much less SPS hitting the market now. So what does that do? Immediate things that come to mind on the negative side, at least initially, is SPS rewards on everything are reduced in half. So this doesn't solve the demand problem because I always talk about how burning is essentially just a marketing mechanism that companies use, right? So this is not burning. I mean, it's like pre-burning or like mass burning, essentially, if you're going to reduce the supply by that much. But it doesn't solve the demand problem. It solves a supply problem, but it doesn't solve the demand problem. And so at least I'd like to believe that there will be demand for SPS in the future and that the team is working on either direct demand for SPS, whether it's like SPS staking, which has been talked about for Q2, or indirect SPS demand, which would be DEC getting back to PEG and then SPS being burned for it. So either way, the reason that I'm open to this is because now that the game is not fully decentralized, but the DAO is up and running and we are going to have community proposals soon, nothing is out of play because we, as game, as SPS stakeholders, we own what's in the DAO and we can essentially own the white paper too, right? Like we can choose what we want to do with SPS. So an idea as radical as this, I don't mind even just as a thought experiment, exploring all of the different avenues. So again, is this the best idea? I'm not sure. I like the idea of reducing from 3 billion to 2 billion because that will make it much, much easier for us to hit higher numbers of value in the future. And when you think about how many players are in this game now, how much SPS is in the game now, how much we need and how much we may need in the future, again, reducing the supply, I have no problem with because, most cryptos go to like 8 decimal places, or at least, with Hive Engine, you can go to like 3 decimal places. But point being is that if if we don't have the demand for it right now, sure, I know that this is like a long-term 65 month or 5.5 year project, but is there something that we should be doing with SPS? Because it's literally just floating out there with no utility or very little utility and not much demand. So we are all getting it for free. Not for free, but like as rewards from playing the game, from LPs, from holding nodes, all that stuff. Is there an argument to be made to reduce, and is that a fair way to do it? So I guess what I'm trying to ask you guys is if you have thoughts on this. One, should we reduce the supply of SPS? Two, how should we do it, right? Is it clean, cutting the remaining, cutting 1/3 off or like half of what's left to come, an easy way to do it? Like, is that something that I know it's not going to be clean numbers now, but we are roughly at 1 billion SPS in circulation, which means that we are 1/3 of the way through. And so cutting half of what's left to come is like an easy solution, right? So again, just throwing this out there because, again, thought experiment. I just want to know how people feel about the overall supply of SPS combined with its overall utility at this point. And then here's the thing, when we talk about the future, it's all speculation, right? I mean, that's all we do on this channel anyway. It's all speculation on what can or can't be used with SPS. But 3 billion is a gigantic amount. Like, it's just obscenely large. And so when I think about 3 billion versus 2 billion, 2 billion sounds so much nicer. And, I've talked about the tokenomics for GLX being pristine because they haven't been, there's no baggage from a DEC overhang the way that there is for SPS, but for Splinterland, it's not SPS. But when I think about reducing the supply and what that could potentially do, again, this is where it comes in as something tricky, right? If we burn 1/3 of the supply, that's an incredible marketing tactic, right? It doesn't do anything. But it could make people's ears perk up and be like, whoa, Splinterlands is burning like 1/3 of the supply that's supposed to come out. Like, this is about to get like much more scarce. Well, that's interesting. Again, marketing. Is it actually going to do anything to the supply demand economics? It will affect one side, the supply, but we still need to work on the demand. But if you believe that the demand is coming, then affecting the supply now, right, will have that impact. Just we don't know when, and and cutting the supply now or future supply isn't going to do anything outside of potentially getting people to FOMO in, right? So I know there's a lot of things in there, and I'm not saying that all of them are good or or genuine, but the point that I'm trying to make here is that ultimately, right, marketing tactic or not, whatever, however you feel about it, I would prefer to have less SPS. And maybe with the amount that we're seeing burned right now, that's not a bad idea. But, we've burned 2% of the total SPS supply. That's not terrible. And I'd love to see more burned. But the problem is we are not going to burn anything until DEC gets back to peg. So we start burning for SPS for DEC at that point. And then only once that happens, right? Only once that happens, so that SPS starts going up in price due to the fact that there is now demand for it, or buying demand for it, then we'll probably start to see more of the node license sales. So there's a lot there's a lot of interplaying with one another here. That, again, I'm not saying that burning or removing 1/3 of the supply would solve, but it would make the SPS that we have now much more scarce. And so maybe you look at that, like the last thing I'll say is maybe you look at that and be like, oh, well, all the people who were here like a year ago or whatever, they got it good, right? Because it was flowing from it was raining down from the skies. And now that we all have it, we want to shut it off for everybody else, right? That could be one of the counter arguments to it. But my point being, I just want to take the community's temperature on this. I don't think it'll ever get passed, just because I don't know that the team would ever approve something like that. Again, not that the team can completely shut it down. If this is something that the community wants, that's what I'm trying to check, right? If the community wants this and we can put it forth and give solid reasoning for it, I don't know. You might just have, like, so much has changed in the past year and a half, almost 2 years for this game, right? But a year and a half since SPS came out, and I'm sure they were thinking about SPS as a token almost 2 years ago. So that's all I wanted to give you in this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Again, this is just a fun thought experiment, but I am looking forward to seeing some cool ideas because there are so many smart individuals here with fantastic ideas. So that is all I have for you. Have an amazing rest of your day. I'll catch you all in the next one and see you around the game. Take care.